Hey everybody, it's Kneecap here, and in this video we have the patch 11.17 release date, which is right here, June 17th. We're going to be going over what all's coming with this patch and kind of my thoughts on everything, of course, that will be coming out this patch. It's kind of a bigger patch, especially for a 0.7 patch, which the 0.7 ones have had content consistently because they keep giving us like a borrowed power thing, including in this patch, which we will get to. But yeah, this entire 11.1 has been a lot of content, but kind of like spaced out. And there's been a big debate, of course, among the player base, whether that's good or bad. You know, in some ways, it's nice to have some new content come out in the middle of summer, whereas we wouldn't have. But in other ways, I see the other side as well. So first of all, there is a new Arethi Highlands campaign. So for all of you nostalgia enjoyers here, we'll be going back to the Arethi Highlands, so like the old zone. Well, not the old zone, probably. I assume it's probably the updated version of Arethi Highlands. So there'll be like story quests there. The Howlfall Arethi, of course, are originally from there. And it kind of goes into all this kind of stuff. The tensions are high still. Technically, they said that the Alliance won the war or whatever back in BFA, or not the war, but the battle for Arethi, and that's why Stromgarde's all rebuilt and stuff like that now. But apparently the tensions are still high, so you can get the Alliance Stromgarde Tabard, the Horde Maghar Tabard, and a shoulder transmog inspired by Farron's Own Pauldrons. Farron's like the one-armed lady from the Howlfall Arethi. She was like a main character in the beginning, when before like we attacked Ansarak and stuff like that. So there you go. So we have a new campaign for all the campaign enjoyers. I have no idea if it's good or not. I don't usually play through that stuff because I try to avoid spoilers. Another thing that's going to be interesting is there's this Lorewalking with Lorewalker Cho. So this is Blizzard's attempt to try to tell some stories of the past to players who are playing now. So the reality is, while a lot of us have played this game for a very long time, there's a lot of people who joined in Legion. There are people who joined in Dragonflight, believe it or not. There are people who joined in Shadowlands, those poor people that are still playing somehow. Well, I guess if that's what their baseline is, the game has gotten so much better since they started playing, so maybe that's why they continue playing. But they want to tell some stories from the past and kind of like, okay, what are these things? Why are they here? Because the reality is, you're probably not going to play through the entire Wrath of the Lich King campaign, like from the starting quest through every zone, like you did if you played back then in current time. And so there's three things here. So there's Xal'atath. So Xal'atath, of course, is like the big bad of this expansion, or maybe the next one too, who knows. And we learned about Xal'atath in Legion with the Shadow Priest, and then there was more with that in the BFA questline as well. But we kind of learn about Xal'atath then. So we're kind of going to go back for non-Shadow Priest players or people who didn't really do that part of the storyline, and kind of learn a little bit more about Xal'atath. There's also the Ethereals. So Ethereals we learned a lot about in Burning Crusade, honestly. So we're going to kind of go back and learn about the Ethereals. These are important because, well, I don't know exactly why they're important, but they stole that Heart of Darkness or whatever, the Dark Heart, from Gallywix before he could give it to Xal'atath. So these guys are a big player as well. So we're going to learn more about the Ethereals. And then the Lich King, of course. This is just a, linchpin story of World of Warcraft. But again, if you are one of the, what's now honestly worldwide, probably over 1 million players, I'd imagine, who started playing the game after the Wrath of the Lich King ever came out, you might not know much about it. And so that's why they're kind of doing this thing. It's actually a pretty cool thing. I don't know if it's going to be a success or a huge success or not by any means, but it's a cool idea to kind of like show people, okay, this is who these people are. We also are going to be getting these overcharged delves. This is really just kind of a mechanic to bring in this new borrowed power belt. So in the previous 2.7s, we've had like rings and stuff, or not the previous, but like we've had two rings, basically Siren Isle and the one in Dragonflight, the Onyx Amulet. And now we're going to get a belt. And so they're just switching it up with a belt. I'll go over more of the belt when this comes out, or the day before this comes out or something, about the belt, especially for Rat Paladin stuff. Like, this is the belt. This is the best things to use for the belt. I've already unlocked the belt and stuff on the PTR. It's very easy to do. It's very easy to gain access to. So it's not like locked behind a bunch of stuff. But these overcharged delves come in, and basically a delve can be overcharged as well. Like right now it can be bountiful, but now it can be overcharged, and it's like has like static or storms on it on the map. And you can just go to the overcharged delve, and you can, like, for the unlock purposes, you can do it on like rank 1, or you can do it on higher ranks as well. And it basically just makes the delve harder, essentially. It's just enough fix to make the delves harder for people who want more of a challenge or whatever, or just something new. Maybe now that you've gained enough gear, here's this other, later in the season, here's this other thing. We'll see if they keep anything like this in the future, the overcharged delves, or if this is simply a mechanic to introduce the belt. That's what I think it is. But if there is a very large percentage of the players who do delves, and if this is a success among them, I could see them bringing stuff like this back or continuing it. But yeah, as far as it goes, difficulty wise, I know for sure that you can, at least when I did it on the PTR, you could unlock the belt by doing like a rank 1 overcharged delve. So you didn't have to, like, it wasn't like this huge thing you had to deal with or anything. I did try to do it on a little bit higher levels as well, which was, I think my gear was scaled down, and it was actually, I tried to do it like a tier 11 overcharged delves, but my gear was scaled down to like LFR level, and that was about impossible. I will say that. Which it probably should be, right? It gives gilded crest and stuff. Additional new rewards: the Titan Disc Belt. Unlock the Titan Disc Belt at the start of the event and upgrade it through the weekly quest. You can upgrade it the first time, that first week. That's what they're saying there. There's a new mount, the Overcharged mech suit. So there's all these mech suits in this expansion. This is just another one. It actually looks pretty cool. New gear from the delves, just like another gear, just another loadout basically. And then more delve currency available. So like the undercoin and stuff like that. If you're having trouble farming that kind of stuff, you have that. The next thing, we have the single button assistant and the rotation helper coming out. So we've already talked about that on this channel. I did a whole feedback thing for Rat Paladin for it. This thing's actually a pretty cool feature. If you are struggling with your damage, it's pretty good. But of course, in the feedback thing, I address the things that need to be fixed. However, the single button assistant, that is actually better than the helper, except for the fact that it has the GCD penalty on it. But in terms of doing the rotation, the single button's actually a little bit better. But I'm sure, since that's the case, I'm sure that they'll probably clean up the rotation helper thing. But either way, it's generally correct. And if you're struggling a lot or you're new to trying high-end content, it could be worth trying to use it and then being like, oh, it's telling me, and then on your own, if you play enough, right, you might be like, oh, it's telling me to use this, but I think I should use this instead. Because you might gain an understanding of how everything works. That would be the hope, at least, right? To naturally be able to gain the understanding without having to look it up. For the most part, though, especially the single button assistant, at least for Rat Paladin, it did have like the ability priority pretty correct, especially on the single button one. So just a few things with the single button one, but it was mostly good. So I'm hoping this brings in a new wave of people trying to do some of the higher end content, because, you know, I know it can be daunting. It was daunting for me when I joined a Mythic guild. It was daunting for me when I realized I had to do Mythic Plus to do the raid. I understand it's excuse me. I understand that it's daunting, but I would love to see more people get into it. And the biggest issue is not knowing what to do. And one of the things you might not know how to do is play your class or spec well, like at a high level. And this can bridge that gap. It definitely can. It'll never be as good as knowing how to do it yourself, but it can be close to it, especially since they have the single button assistant with the GCD penalty. So it'll never, that'll literally never be good as somebody playing optimally by themselves. But if you don't play optimally by yourself, then it's really good. We have that. Again, I'm pretty pro this. I know there's people against this, but for me, as somebody who will never use it, I think it's great, because I want other players to get closer to my level or whatever, right? Like, I want other players to play better. Like, that's cool. That's more people to play with. Slip into the Turbulent timeways with Battle for Azeroth. So we're adding Battle for Azeroth in the Timewalking. So the way the Turbulent timeways work, I am not a master on this. This is not a guide, but this is the mount you can get. So it's the pirate captain from the mega dungeon in Shadowlands, from Tales of Ash or whatever it was called. You found a pirate dragon in there. You can get this mount now. And to do this, it's somewhere along these lines. This is not a guide. This is not exactly how to do it. If someone knows exactly how to do it, feel free to comment below. But basically, you have to do, I don't even know the number. It's like 4 or 6 time walking dungeons a week during this. And then you'll get like this buff every time you do one. And you need to like max out that buff. And then I believe if you max out the buff every week, That's how you get this amount in particular. So basically for 6 weeks, based on this, if this is accurate, based on this, for 6 weeks you need to do time walking dungeons. I believe you can do them on all. I think they have to be all done on the same character, but I don't even know for sure on that. But you have to get this buff on you. That gives you this timeways buff, and then you need to. There's like an achievement, and then it unlocks this mount. That is a rough sketch or a rough idea of how this works. Maybe I'll do a guide on it when it's closer to coming out, and I look up how to do it because I want to get this mount. But it is something close to that if you just want to have a ballpark idea. And then the greedy emissary is returning. So if you didn't play in Dragonflight or during this time in Dragonflight, there was a greedy emissary. This is like a Diablo crossover event. A treasure goblin comes out of a portal. This will be in Stormwind, Orgrimmar, Dornogal, and Undermine. So they're removing it from the Dragonflight zone, which makes sense. And you just kill this thing, and then there's a mount you can get, and then there's this armor you can get as well. Tier 2 armor sets that you can slowly acquire as well from this. So there's just some of these recolors. So this one a lot of people kind of like. It's like a red version of the Judgment set, but there's all kinds of different armors you can get here. And then there's alongside this greedy emissary, there's also going to be a collector's bounty buff for players to collect stuff, legacy loot, increasing drops in legacy content throughout Azeroth. So what I think it means by increasing drops is it might literally be increasing the amount of items that you get per kill just to possibly get the item that you want, right? So throughout Azeroth, I assume that means basically everything. So you go kill Molten Core, I assume you're going to get more items. I think that's how it works. You go to Blackhand or in Warlords of Draenor or whatever, you might get more items, right? Whatever you want to kill. Garrosh, you might get more items when you kill him. I think that's how it works based on the wording. It's either because it wouldn't be feasible in my brain at least for it to be, oh, we're just going to increase the drop rate of items that your character can use. Like, I get how that would be possible to code in, but that seems a lot more messy than just saying, oh, instead of 5 items, it drops 8 or something like that. That seems like it would be a lot easier, and then each one just does the normal RNG roll on what it could drop or something. That seems a lot more likely to me, but again, I don't know exactly how this event's going to work. I didn't even know it existed, honestly, because this isn't something that they, the emissary thing they did, but this bonus legacy loot thing, collector's bounty, wasn't something they were advertising, and I hadn't heard about until reading this, honestly. So there we go. That's a patch 11.1.7. It's a lot of content, some of which may not be for you. If you are just an endgame player, which I am mostly an endgame player, then you just have this belt to get. You have to do a couple delves to unlock some stuff, and then you're pretty much good to go as far as the belt goes. I will have a guide for Ret specifically for sure on the belt and what ability to unlock and stuff like that. But yeah, that's it for this patch. And again, it's a pretty big patch given, given that it's a 0.7 patch, right? We used to only get content on the 0.1 patches. They'd have a 0.5 patch. It would basically be nothing. And, that's changed a lot, but maybe some of that content could be shifted to the front, but that's an argument for a different video, whatever. So that's it for this one, guys. As always, I do ask you to subscribe to the channel. If you're already a subscriber, I encourage you to check out the Patreon, which I am trying to do more stuff on, including I made a Discord. So if you join the Patreon, you can join the Discord. And other than that, everybody, have a good one.